and welcome to Transatlantic Watch Party, a podcast in which Dan in Canada and myself, Cara, in the UK, watch a film separately and then get together to discuss it. And this week we are discussing 2016's Miss Sloane, which was directed by John Madden, with a debut script from Jonathan Perera, who has done nothing since but has 3 projects in development.
Okay, read into that what you will.
Lobbying is about foresight. About anticipating your opponent's moves.
She's your enemy now.
And devising countermeasures.
How the hell does she manage that?
You're a piece of work, Elizabeth.
I was hired to win. I use whatever resource I have.
You want to lead the fight on gun control.
There's over 5 million of us, and we're armed. Start an inquisition.
They will throw you in jail for contempt of Congress!
The winner plots one step ahead of the opposition.
We have to make it personal.
You know the word annihilate? It means reduce to nothing.
This is more important than my career.
It was mind-boggling,
You crossed the line.
ingenious,
Bugging and
and
tapping.
completely unbelievable.
It's about making sure you surprise them. And they don't surprise you.
Willing to bend the rules for her clients, Elizabeth Sloane remains one of the most sought-after lobbyists in Washington, D.C. When asked to help oppose a bill that imposes regulations on firearms, she instead joins a scrappy boutique firm that represents the backers of the law. Her defiant stance and determination to win now makes her the target of powerful new enemies who threaten her career and the people she cares about. Who does she care about?
I've never picked up on that.
I disagree with this because certainly on her career, but I don't think she cares about it anymore. I think that's what I got.
No, I don't think she does. And the only person I think they could be referring to is Esme.
Sure. Yeah, that's right. That's the only person she seems to show any kind of empathy for.
And she's the only other person who sort of gets dragged into this whole thing. So, who gets threatened in any way.
So what did you think of the film?
Well, first off, let me say this is a film that puts you on a train and then just goes. And it is relentless, and there are no ebbs and flows, really. There's not really much of a sort of roller coaster ride. It just barrels along, and I love that kind of film.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it's good. I like it. Like always, it's very interesting subject matter, and I was engaged in the topic, but it was to me it's pretty dry at times. It's a lot of. I mean, maybe it's just because we've been spending a lot of time in courtrooms and in trials and hearings and stuff lately. Last few movies have been very heavy in those things, but this is what that I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was written very well. There's some really, really great lines I want to come back to. But I don't know, it wasn't my favorite Jessica Chastain film.
Yeah, when I say I love that kind of movie, I'm not saying this is the best movie ever made. I'm just saying I do enjoy a relentless pace.
No, I did too. That's actually one of the best things about this film is it does not let up.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Things that I think we should point out. It was nominated by the Alliance of Women Film Journalists for Bravest Performance for Jessica Chastain, which seems like an odd category to begin with. I need to look into that more because that's kind of fascinating. The other thing, other than a Golden Globe for Jessica Chastain, the other thing it was nominated for was the Washington, D.C. Area Film Critics Association for Best Portrayal of Washington, D.C. And that terrifies me.
Oh.
Because this doesn't make Washington, D.C. look terribly good. And it's very interesting, I think, that either they recognise that in the Film Critics Association, or there's not that many portrayals of Washington, D.C. that year.
I think possibly both of those things are true. I think that's necessarily what. But honestly, there's this portrayal of Washington, D.C. It is very familiar. I've seen it in several films, just not in the same year, I guess. But yeah, I've seen this kind of stuff before with lobbyists and that kind of stuff. Most one comes to mind is The American President, which is an Aaron Sorkin film. We talked about him last week. But there's a scene in this film that very much reminded me of that film when they're and even throughout this film they're like counting the votes. They're always like worried about the votes and who's going to vote for the bill. That was a big part of it. I believe it was also an anti-gun bill in that movie as well. In The American President, it's the same.
Oh,
Which is interesting. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. Should we get into the characters?
absolutely.
Okay, so we have, of course, Jessica Chastain as Madeline Elizabeth Sloane, or they call her Liz quite often in this film. And then
Yeah, she says that only her mother calls her Madeline.
right, and Mark Strong as Rodolfo Schmidt,
Who is not Jeremy Strong, as we learned last week.
different Strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Gugu Mbatha-Raw as Esme Manouchian. I love Gugu. I think she's a fantastic actress. And Michael Stuhlbarg as Pat Connors.
Which one was he again?
He's the leader of the opposition, I shall call him.
Oh yes, of course, the guy who she had the debate with.
Yes.
I've seen him in some other stuff too, and I can't quite place.
He's in oh gosh, what's it called? A Serious Man? Is that the Coen Brothers one? And then he's been in so many things. I think he was in Dope Sick recently. He's sort of everywhere, and he's also a very, very good actor.
I mean, this whole film is full of good actors.
It's stacked. Yeah.
Allison Pill, who I love, as Jane Malloy. And of course, Sam Waterston, grumpier than ever. He's so angry and grumpy in this, is George DuPont. Like typical Sam Waterston. It looks like he just walked off the set of Law and Order and onto this film because it's the same character. He's getting mad at somebody, yelling at somebody. That's what he does.
Which is funny because, of course, Allison Pill and Sam Waterston were both in The Newsroom together, which I've just started watching, which is a Sorkin connection. And also, I love Sam Waterston in The Newsroom. I'm only on episode 3, and he is I just want to hug him and put him in bubble wrap and protect him forever. And in this, he's such a shitbag.
Range. He's got range, right?
Yeah. And then finally, John Lithgow from Santa Claus the Movie as Senator Ron Sperling, and Jake Lacey as Rob Ford.
And who has the most familiar looking face, and who is that guy? The whole movie, I'm like, who is this guy? Where have I seen this guy before? It turns out he had a bit part on The Office. I think that's the only possible place I could have seen him.
Well, oddly enough, I am watching currently with my mother All Her Fault, which is the Sarah Snook and Jake Lacey drama, and I have been racking my brains going, where do I know this guy from? He was in Carol. I think I might remember him from that. And then my mum said the other day, he looks like Cameron Norrie, who is a British tennis player. And now I cannot get that out of my head. He looks so like Cam Norrie. I mean, if you put them side by side, you wouldn't think so probably, but there's something very Cam Norrie about him. And so when I was watching this film, I sent a text message to my mum going, oh, Cam Norrie's playing a male prostitute in this. She was like, oh, that's a strange line of work for a professional tennis player.
That's funny. Okay. So, and of course, I like that you made the connection to Santa Claus, the movie. We're just going to keep coming back to that. Eventually, we'll have another Dudley Moore film, and else is in that as well. So that's good. And John Lithgow, I just like throughout the film, I just wanted to hear him go. I'd like smoking a cigar. Yeah, that'd be great. Oh yeah,
but it's nice to see him on the other side of the congressional hearing.
Yes, that's true. Yes. He's running the hearing this time, not the subject of it. Yeah. Because plot so many meetings, or as I like to say, meetings, bloody meetings, which is it's actually a video. If you look it up, it's called Meetings, Bloody Meetings, and it's hosted by John. I can't think of the other John's name. Cleese. So many Johns. Anyway, it's a very funny 80s corporate video that you can probably find online. So many meetings. We meet Molly in preparation with her lawyer for upcoming congressional hearing. Now we open with it's one of my least favorite things in a movie when it's just a monologue of the camera kind of moving in and they're talking very seriously about this is what what is she again? She's a
lobbyist.
Lobbyist. This is what a lobbyist does.
Lobbying is about foresight, about anticipating your opponent's moves and devising countermeasures. The winner plots one step ahead of the opposition and plays her trump card just after they play theirs.
I get it. I get it. Like we have to set it everything up, but it's just so cliche to start that way. But it does tie all together as we learn later on.
Yeah.
The opening thing is there's a reason for it, and we'll come back to it in the end. But then she is meeting with Dan. Her lawyer's name is Dan. Awesome. And he does not like her very much. It's very clear. I love that her lawyer hates her so much that this whole movie. Although maybe by the end he's got a little bit of begrudging respect for her. But she's getting ready for a congressional hearing, and she's basically sitting there repeating the Fifth Amendment. She has to say the Fifth Amendment over and over again. Is all this guy's telling her to do, basically, right?
Yeah, and we have a little bit of a continuity error in the script there.
Oh.
Because the first time we hear her say it, she says, on the advice of counsel, blah, 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 blah. The second time she says it, we go back into the room, because that's the voiceover. The second time she says it, we go back into the room with her, and she says, upon the advice of counsel. And then she turns to him and she's like, do you know, can I switch it up a little bit? Or does it have to be the exact words? Can I say, on the advice of counsel? And I was just like, that's what you just said.
Right. You just said it that way. That's funny. Oh well, that's yeah, but she's got basically this is her. She's going to be has to sit in front of a congressional hearing, and her preparation is that she's going to plead the Fifth every single time they ask her a question, which is so frustrating. But that's her defense. Apparently, it's according to this lawyer, it's her only defense, because if she even cracks a little bit, she has to like talk about everything or something like that.
Yeah, which is apparently not how it works. Also, like, she can't be held up for Senate ethics because she's not a senator. You know, there's lots of stuff that doesn't work. Yeah. But yes, for the purposes of this film, it's a very simple concept to go in with. If you deviate slightly, they are going to try and rile you up. And if they manage it, that's it. The whole thing is blown wide open and they can ask you anything.
And this is not maybe one of the best lines, but it's one of the lines I took note of, is when they said they're going to rile you so bad they make Gandhi want to cut their tongues out. What does that mean? Is it because
Gandhi was the peaceful guy,
But what Gandhi was known for, like, going on a hunger strike, right? Is that why he said cut the tongue out? I don't get the cut the tongue reference.
I just think he means they would make him violent, and that was absolutely,
Gandhi would want to cut their tongues out because they're riling her up.
Yeah. Like if Mahatma Gandhi was on the receiving end of it, he'd be so mad. He'd cut their tongues out.
Why is he so upset when she does it in the thing? She goes to the thing and she breaks, and she like gets riled. Like, you told her they were going to do this. You expected them to do this. But anyway, I guess you can prepare her for that, right? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we're into the hearing now, and we have, of course, John Lithgow is in charge of the hearing. And this is and it's weird because she's a lobbyist. I think this whole thing feels weird because she is a lobbyist and not an actual elected member of something, right? Yeah. But that is the premise of the movie, is that they're kind of they're bringing her in to, well, ultimately to distract from the gun thing. What else? My other notes from this section, she's playing another drug addict, although this came before Molly's game, but it's, I guess, what do they say it is that she's taking? Some kind of
oh god, it's everything. No, it's like she takes something so she doesn't sleep. You see, now I'm getting confused with Molly's game, because in Molly's game she's taking everything.
Yes. Well,
she take like anti-insomnia medication.
Something
in this one.
She doesn't sleep, is the point.
Yeah.
And how can she survive if she doesn't sleep? Well, it's because she takes all these drugs.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I noted here, Occupy Wall Street. Remember that? That was a throwback. That was an interesting time. And they're like reminiscing of their favorite Occupy signs. So that was quite funny.
Yeah, because that is when we go back in time, because there's a lot of time skipping in this film. But unlike Molly's game, we get it on the screen. They tell us where we are and what the date is. Like, thank you very much. This is useful information. And we meet Molly when she is deep in her palm oil lobbying game.
Right. Yes.
So we meet like her team at what I'm going to call the pro-gun group, and then we have the anti-gun group that she eventually moves to. But the pro-gun group is CKW, and one of the things they discuss in that meeting is paying people to go to a demonstration, and I was just banging my head against my desk. You know, I was like, oh God, paid agitators. You know, like it's such a nonsense. Like,
this is 2016 though. Like Trump had already done that once at this
yeah,
point, right?
like
Funny.
right-wing talking point. And,
Yeah.
and they are, you know, like maybe leaning towards the right wing. So when did the right wing pay their agitators? I don't know. But it was very annoying to see that come up.
Yeah.
And then she goes into a meeting about the gun lobby, and it's the guy. They don't say he's from the NRA, but it's the NRA. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those situations.
Yeah, they're very pro-gun, and they basically there's this bill being passed, and all it is, from what I could gather, is like universal background checks on people who want to buy guns. That's pretty much what they're talking about, as far as like that's everyone has to wait a couple weeks before they get the gun is what which seems like no brainer in most places, but it does not exist in the U.S., and that is the main issue in this movie. And it is the central kind of debate between pro-gun and anti-gun lobbies like this, right? So this is kind of this debate, this fight is.
And it's not even that, because the people who want the universal background checks aren't even necessarily anti-gun.
No,
just pro-universal background checks.
That's right. Yeah, but everybody, of course, the people on the gun side see this as an infringement on their rights, and they always go back to the Second Amendment, and again just bringing forth all these old arguments for freedom of guns. What do you call that? I was going to say
the right to bear arms.
Sure, that's right. The right to bear arms is how they say it. So anyway, there's a meeting with them, and she doesn't want to do it. Like she doesn't. And the funny thing is, they keep asking her, "Oh, did somebody die from gun violence?" She's like, "No. Why?
Yeah.
Why do I have to have somebody to have an opinion on this?" Right? I like that. She's like, "No, it's a horrible thing, and I don't want to be part of it." So she turns it down, and then she has an argument with Sam Waterston DuPont, who's her boss, who's really pissed. That's just like his most angry he gets in the movie. He's because she laughs at it's funny. She laughs at his face.
Now, Liz, imagine a new organization pitched at women who are deterred by the strong rhetoric of the Second Amendment groups and by our association with the political right. But no links to us, no baggage, no overt position on guns. And you will build it up. You will drive its agenda, and slowly but surely, you will turn those members into paid-up guardians of the Second Amendment.
That laugh is the fakest laugh to ever fake laugh. It's incredible. And she says to him, because what he's done, the NRA guy, he talks about how they've lost the female vote. Like, they need the women back. And he talks about her running a campaign that approaches it as guns are a tool of female empowerment. And he talks about domestic violence. And I immediately, because this was 2016, I immediately wanted to shout Marissa Alexander in his face. And I don't know if you know about Marissa Alexander. She, in 2012, she was prosecuted for aggravated assault. I'm getting this from Wikipedia, with a deadly weapon. Not Wikipedia with a deadly weapon. She was prosecuted for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and received a mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years in prison. This was a domestic violence case in a stand your ground state where she shot a wall.
Okay.
So sometime after her conviction, a new trial was ordered, and before that could begin, she was released in 2015 under a plea deal that capped her sentence to the 3 years she had already served. But the idea that they just throw in this, guns as a tool of female empowerment, when that's only happened like 4 years ago, and it was a big story at the time, it absolutely mind-boggling. Like, maybe that Elizabeth wouldn't be aware of it, or like, I know they don't want to bring up like real things. She does mention Columbine, but the school shooting we hear about that involves one of the characters isn't a real one. So they're walking a fine line between like real things and not real things.
Yeah.
But the other thing she says, and this was one of my favorite lines. She said, the idea of this campaign is so ridiculous. She says, it could only have originated in a room full of old white men. And he takes such offense at that, and he says, this is my own idea. And I'm like, yeah, you're an old white man.
That's even worse. That means you're pushing your crappy idea on everybody else, and no one has the guts to say no to you. That is what the problem is with this guy, right? Nobody wants to say no. But of course, he also represents a lot of financial interests and a huge gun lobby and all these other places. So he does have a lot of power.
Yeah. Not quite a granite wall, because she tells Dan in that first bit, she goes, Dan, when I sit down in front of them, I'm going to be a granite wall. He is not. They're going to take a few swings at her and she is going to crumble. She's going to fold like a card of decks. Like a deck of cards. Like a house of cards? I don't know. Maybe you can cut that out.
No worries.
So yes. Leaving a fundraiser event, so we're back in the old days. Leaving a fundraiser event, Liz meets a journalist. She assumes, and she's like very pissy with him, and she's like, I'll give you a quote. And it turns out he's actually Rodolfo Schmidt from Peterson Wyatt. And he wants her on board with his campaign for the gun control bill. We go back to the congressional hearing. We see her losing her shit. And her opportunity to plead the fifth goes out of the window. We skip back 2 months and 3 weeks, where Liz quits CKW and takes some of her team, most importantly, not Jane, to Peterson Wyatt.
Yeah.
So I did like the little turnaround of the journalist with Schmidt. That's always a nice little reveal, especially when your central character is a bit of a dick, and and you get to show that they're a bit of a dick. I always enjoy that. When she has a conversation with her CKW teammates to see who's going to join her at Peterson Wyatt, she goes, who wants to come with me? And then people start getting up and going to stand by Pat for like, well, we're on this team, we're on the no gun control team. And she's, first of all, she goes, oh, the God Squad, what a surprise, which I found quite funny, because there's this sort of tie-in with Christian nationalists and having a gun, and and one guy, she says, oh yeah, remind me how many guns you have. And he says, enough to defend my property and 2 more to piss off the lefties. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. We get a great line from John Lithgow when she's been riled up, and she loses it at the stupidest, smallest, most infinitesimal thing. And she's just basically very sarcastic and very inflammatory. And he says, welcome to the party, because that's it for him. She's opened the doors. There's a lunch meeting that we see with Sanderson, the leader of the NRA, and the CKW team. And he pulls out that line that I think I hear a lot, which is, there are 5 million of us and we're armed. Which, just with what's going on right now in America, where are those people?
No, those are the guys.
I want to, like, it just seems that whenever I hear that, it's just such a stupid. I just, those people, they drive me mad. And there is a bit where we get discussions of tactics. We do a lot of like skipping between the CKW boardroom and the PW meet, like just general office, because they don't really have boardrooms and stuff. but we get a lot of back and forth between them, and there's a sort of arguments and rebuttals. And one of the things that Liz says is when they go, they'll argue about having to wait 2 weeks to get a gun, and she says anyone that desperate to get their hands on a gun shouldn't be anywhere near one. And that, to my mind, makes a lot of sense. And then the one other important thing we find out is that Esme, who is one of the new team at Peterson Wyatt, she was involved in a school shooting, but she hasn't told anyone. No one knows about it. But there's she doesn't list her school on her CV, on her resume, and that's how Liz finds out about it.
Yeah, then she takes her out to dinner and then confronts her with it. I got confused with all the teams. I gotta say, I wrote down. I wish I could remember anybody's name in all these people except for Esme and Liz and the main that's it. But all these other minor characters, I just you can tell they're these young actors who are very excited to be in this, and it's just I don't know who you are, and I'm never gonna remember you. It was weird. What did I say here? Is this when we have the dinners? The scene about the Amish chicken? Was that this one or is that the next?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
That's the lunch meeting.
Yeah, so the Amish chicken tastes better because he can't use Google. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, that is good.
In the section where he's talking about how it's illegal to buy dildos in Texas, but not illegal to buy guns, and she's like, that explains the low rate of dildo-related murders in Texas.
Yeah, which is a great line, but also B, immediately tells you where she stands. If there were fewer guns, there'd be fewer murders. It's a very nice, it's a very useful line, that, as well as being very funny.
I said I'm glad she's on the right side of this argument. This wouldn't be as fun of a movie if she was arguing for the NRA people, right? I like that. It's good that they show us that she's desirable from the other side first, right? They approach her first so that this is no, and then all of a sudden she's offered the exact opposite side of the argument, right? And the other thing that we skipped over is that she's never done this kind of. Usually she lobbies for what was she doing? The palm oil thing, right? Which was about taxes.
Taxes and governmental overreach.
Yeah, and that kind of
in
stuff.
Business. Yeah,
for business stuff. Never for gun control or anything. She's never been in this area before. So Liz schemes to get a senator to agree to vote for the bill during a Q&A. Impressed with Esme, she makes her face the face of the campaign. Is this during the debate? Is what you mean during that?
No. It's that she sort of calls her up and says, I want you on the NYU debate. And then she's like, you need to get used to being in front of a camera because because Esme is always like, shouldn't we share the load going in front of the camera? And she's like, no, you're it. And we find out later why she's done this, but we have no idea at the moment, other than she thinks that Esme is terribly good and terribly charming and whatever, and attractive and very good on screen.
That's right.
Hey, Esme, I have a surprise for you on Wednesday. We're going to a new restaurant.
How about a Second Amendment
Debate at NYU Law School.
Don't shout this from the rooftops, but I trust you to do a better job than anyone else on the team.
You can't make it? I'm including myself as part of the team. I wasn't cool enough to relate to college kids when I was a college kid. I'll forward you the details. You again.
So we have our Senator Q&A. So more Q&A. I can't remember what part of the movie this is. There's so much Q&A.
Well, it's the first time because she sets up the young girl who isn't Cynthia or Esme, the other one with the dark hair. She gets her to sit somewhere in the Q&A, and they are going to go to her for a question. And so they set that up. So she is meant to be the person who asks the question that forces the senator on television to agree to vote for the bill. We see there is a table of CKW people at the back, and they do not go to the Peterson Wyatt girl, the plant, for the question. Instead, they go to a doctor. And he asks a question which, amazingly enough, gets the senator to agree to do this. And then we find out that he was a plant.
Right. Okay.
Because, and when, I wish I could remember the character's name. It's Megan Faye. when she asks her, like, why did you undercut me? Like, why did you have a backup plan? And she says, because in this business, you have to keep your circle small and you're never more than 2 meters away from a rat. So this is when she is starting to suspect, because CKW didn't originally have a table at that fundraiser. Why were they there? And they got her girl panned from the list of questions.
Yeah.
So she is suspecting that someone is feeding information to CKW. I did not pick up on that then, but that's what is happening.
Yeah, and that is revealed to us in the next section. Now, in the other part of this part of the movie is Pat offers to do a live TV debate with Liz, which I thought was kind of funny. Like the whole debate thing, I get that they would have a debate about this, but isn't it usually the actual politicians having the debates, not the lobbyists?
Yeah, it's really weird, like how famous these lobbyists are. Like, we know who the lobbyists are. We know who the Heritage Foundation is and all that sort of stuff. But so these days, maybe you would get a debate of the Heritage Foundation and whatnot. But yeah, it does seem like a thing where the people who would be bringing in the bill and the people who were opposing the bill might do the debate. But I like that when he suggests it, she says, "Sure, I'll grant you a job interview on national television." Also in this segment, we do get bonus Christine Baranski.
Yes. Oh, she's great. And then just like chain smoking, like, I know all this stuff. Like, she's so busy. You can tell she's an amazing senator or whatever she is, congresswoman. Because she's just so busy and frazzled. She's like, I know this. Come on, what are you doing? Like, she's already knows all this stuff about the gun control.
Yeah. I don't know if she's a senator. I don't know whether she's just like she runs a foundation or she's just like a very rich woman, because we see like Esme doing all the TV stuff and Schmidt talking to the donors and Liz going like face to face, but she's talking to Christine Baranski and the other person she talks to is a priest. Right. So I'm wondering if she's like not hitting up the senators, because also she's not expensing for these meetings. People in the office don't know that they're happening.
Right.
And so I think it's more like the boots on the ground kind of people that she's trying to influence. And we do find out later that she's been raising money.
Yes, that's right. We find out, but also that she's been kind of talking to women's groups and stuff. Like that was part of it, right? So maybe part of the women's group.
Yeah, so Christine Baranski, I think, is something to do with that, because that's what she's hitting her with. She keeps hitting her with like the domestic violence stats and the whatever. She's basically taking the guy's idea and doing the opposite with it. Which is nice. Yes. And yeah, so we get a really weird debate, which again, it's very well done, because I was screaming at her all the way through it for A, what she was saying, how off script she was going, and then B, what she does at the end of it.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's great, because she's a dick. And I don't mind like an anti-hero sort of, main character. I don't mind that kind of protagonist. And I especially like it when it's a woman. I like an unlikable woman, as the lead of a film. But that when they're getting ready to do the debate, she is distracted by a load of other stuff, and everyone keeps saying, focus on the thing. And she goes, I've got to take this call. And she goes, put makeup on Esme. And Esme's like, I'm not going on screen. And she goes, you're a public figure and you're around cameras. You should have makeup on just in case. I had no idea that she was going to do the reveal of Esme and all the cameras were going to go on her. Like, she is 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everyone else all the time.
Speaking of getting ahead, you're a little bit ahead on our thing, because we forgot Cynthia's downfall in the thing. And
no, we're not there yet.
Oh, we're not?
No, we're just, did you see at the end of Liz Smells a Rat, number 5, Pat and Liz, that's the debate.
I thought down here we have the debate. It says under a cockroach.
I am so sorry. Yes, it's just the conversation about having the debate.
I think that's the bonus. Yeah.
honestly, what's the point of me doing this rundown if I don't read it? It's embarrassing. I'm so ashamed.
No, it's fine. Okay, but I want to mention, because again, in my section, I forgot to mention that this is also where we see that she has sex with Ford, who's a male prostitute, as you said. And so basically, like, she just pays for sex. So she just doesn't want to have obviously doesn't have to deal with a relationship, but still has needs. So she just has a business transaction about it, right?
Yes.
Wait.
And that's fine. And he is not the guy she is expecting. She has a standing weekly, month, whenever it is, she has a standing contract with Mark. Is it that, and she's always like, where's Mark? And instead we get Ford. They do not know who she is.
Yeah.
Is the point. She doesn't have any relationships outside of her job. So when she goes to dinner with Esme's like, do you eat here every night? And she's like, yeah. She just eats in the same restaurant. And she goes home and she goes to fundraisers and she does her job and she pays for sex. Like, because she cannot. Because not only does she not have the time, but also if she has those relationships outside, they're going to complicate her job.
Mm-hmm.
So she just doesn't have them. So yes, so there are points where Ford says, like, this isn't the only thing I do. Like, and also, I don't know whether he's paying his way through school or whatever, but he's an escort as well. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, well, that's a nice little foreshadowing, that, I get invited to events. I go to events with people. But do you? That's interesting. What kind of events, Ford? Fundraisers? That's really interesting. I wonder if we'll see you at one of them. Liz tells the team they're going to flip Florida. And she does this outside because she's like, I don't know who is listening where. So she takes them to a secluded little spot and she says, we're going to do something they would never expect us to do. We're going to flip Florida. Pat meets a senator Liz has already got the agreement with. He's already said he's going to support the bill. And he threatens his son. He threatens that senator's son, who is also running for election. And then it is revealed that there is indeed a rat in the PW team, which is Cynthia.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great line from Mark Strong in this when they're having the outside meeting, and she's like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do the other, but we can only discuss it out of the office and nobody else is to know. And he says, how do I register my dissent? By semaphore? Which I really enjoyed. And also the way she reveals that she's discovered Cynthia is great. She hands out like a, here are our next steps, big booklet of like, what they're going to do. And they all open it and they go, oh, we're not doing Florida. I thought you said we were going to do Florida. And we have, after she has that meeting, we immediately do see Pat on the phone saying, we need to talk about Florida. So we know as well, there is a leak coming from somewhere. So they open these files and they go, oh, there's nothing about Florida. I thought we were doing Florida. And she goes, please turn to tab 9. So they all do. And Cynthia goes, I don't have anything at tab 9. And everyone else has photos of Cynthia and Pat.
Yeah.
So she has been following Cynthia, as we later turn out. She's had everyone followed to find out who the rat is. And the dark-haired girl, Megan Faith, I can't remember this, it's terrible. She says to somebody, how could she do that? How does someone even think like that? And they go, well, I suppose she was thinking about her career, because they offered her a job, Cynthia, And she goes, I wasn't talking about Cynthia.
Of course not. Just talking about Liz. Yeah, and so we now we move on. Liz is trying to convince Schmidt to use illegal surveillance in their campaign, and we meet these awesome two guys, Big Sam and Little Sam, who are the two surveillance guys, and they seem way too familiar with Liz just to have just met her. Like, it does definitely get the sense that she's used them before for stuff, right?
She calls them her unofficial support team.
Yeah, that's right.
Video and audio surveillance, cell phone and online account hacking, location tracking, and with our latest tech, close quarters audio. Anytime, any place.
Talk about all the different surveillance techniques, one of which involves poor cockroach being massacred, or I don't know, but they have to stick something in it, and so they can control where the cockroach goes. Is this the real thing, do you think, or is this just something from the movie?
Right. There was a thing, I think 2001 was, the first time I read about it, where they were talking about cockroach, and not maybe real cockroaches, but maybe animatronic cockroaches whereas these people were talking about like putting microphones on their antennas and like actual cockroaches.
Yeah.
And then putting these little cockroaches into earthquakes, into rubble, so that they could, with a tiny little camera and tiny little microphone, so that they could find people in the rubble. But this I was genuinely like, are you, because I thought she was setting him up to be like, this is a massive joke.
No, she really wants to do this. This is how she plans on flipping some of these politicians to their side of the bill, is by getting dirt on them, basically, right? Following them until something happens, and then blackmailing them into voting with them.
And he shuts it down. He shuts it down quick. Yeah.
And it's a CKW finding out about Hank's inflatable rat stalker.
Oh, do you remember that?
I remember the inflatable rat in the demonstration that they had.
Yes. So we see that the CKW, because again, and this is all we don't have to talk about all this, but I did enjoy the rat stalker, because basically Hank, the guy who Pat had said, if you don't flip, we're going to make sure that your son never has a political.
Oh yes, they protest. Yes, that's right.
And so Liz's side, because he does a 180, which he doesn't, because he says he's going to wait and see, which is not a full 180. And Liz does say that's not a 180, that's a 90 degrees, But she pays protesters, and they get a massive inflatable rat, and they follow him all the way from his house, like to his job. And you see him being interviewed on the street, and he's like, I'm going to support this bill. And I'm like, I'm not being funny. This is his son's career in politics. I do not see him being swayed by 20 odd protesters and an inflatable rat.
No, yeah, he flip-flopped pretty quickly on that, right? Like, it's just, so they're not going to follow through with their threat to whatever. It was weird, like negative finance or something or other, like what they were threatening him. I didn't even know what it meant, but it sounded bad.
Yeah, I think it was, we'll outspend him. Like, we will there will be negative finance options. Like, we will put in a guy opposite him, and we will bankroll him into politics, into Congress, or whichever, the House, Congress, Senate. I never really know which one's which. But they were like, we will stop him from ever having a career.
We're gonna move forward because I want to get us moving along here. So we quickly have Liz snups forward at an event. So this is the event you're talking about. Of course, that she's gonna run into him at a fundraiser, and she just pretends she doesn't know who he is. And I thought it was kind of weird that she wouldn't at least like.
Yes, that is what I said. I said I knew he was going to turn up, and I didn't understand her actions. But come the end of the film, I did, because she says to him, someone else there knows you're an escort. The person you are with knows you're an escort. So you come to me and you know me. They know that I know you. They will connect the dots, and I can't have that. But what we do see is one of the CKW team overseeing this happening. And she is so, like, Ford keeps going. And she's trying to get him to stop. And it's so obvious that they know each other. The CKW guy sees it,
Connection. Then we come to the debate. So now we have the big televised debate that I don't think would really happen between two lobbyists, but this is what it is. And then they have again, and they present like pretty much like the exact same. I've heard all of these arguments on either side a bunch of times for this type of thing, right? Like, 'cause it is the gun debate. It is everything that you would see if this was happening in real life. But then she pulls a fast one, and you can see during the debate that everybody Like they're all the team is watching and they're all saying the lines, and then she diverges from it. She goes in a different way, and they're all like, what's she doing? She's not sticking to the plan. She's changing things. She makes it about the Constitution, which is it's dangerous territory when you go on with these guys, right? Because that's really important to a lot of people. But
she starts to make it really personal.
Yeah.
She goes away from like the bog standard sort of constitutional arguments, and she moves into the mom who had to see this happen, and the person, and I was like, why is she going here? Then we find out.
Because she pulls a fast one and reveals Esme on, like, she's right there. And it was like, camera whips her.
Yeah, you want to talk to a girl who hid in a closet while she heard her classmates being slaughtered? There she is. Yeah. And it's horrible because Esme has no idea. And I think it's so obvious from her face that she had no idea, that if I, as an anti-gun person, were watching that debate and I should be on Sloane's side, would immediately be put off.
Yeah.
Because how dare you do that? Just how dare you?
Yeah, like she managed to piss off almost everybody in that moment, because I don't think it really helped her position that much. Like, she's trying to put a human face to the whole thing, right? So I get that that's her idea, but not very successful, I don't think. And obviously it puts Esme in a lot of danger, as we learn in a little bit. And so go ahead.
So just that we have a conversation between Esme and Liz afterwards, and she says, Liz says, I understand you have feelings and a life, but I have no duty to them. And it's so cold, and it's so Liz Sloane.
Right. And then Schmidt confronts her and says she's out of control, but then she reveals her secret pack, and I don't know how any of this stuff works, the pack stuff. But it to me, it seems like the most corrupt thing about this whole thing is that this, you know what I mean? Like,
there's too much money in politics. Yes.
Right. And this is how people donate money, is they can just secretly donate money to this cause, and that she's raised, what is it, $15 million that they can use. So what does this $15 million pay for? Is it pay for their salaries? Is that what it pays for? Or what like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it funds their campaign, basically.
Advertising, stuff like that.
They can buy TV slots and they can do whatever, because, and they can pay more staff and they can get like better data and all that sort of stuff. They can outsource things because they have the money to pay for it. Yeah. So CKW decide to go after Liz directly, and they consider aiming for a congressional hearing, but we see them sort of trying to do other things first, and they don't think they have enough to go to a congressional hearing. Esme is held at gunpoint, but is saved by a good guy with a gun, Frank McGill, played by a Canadian. So this is your fault, Dan, and I'm going to blame you for it.
I didn't know he was Canadian.
Yeah. In the meantime, I was like, I know him. It turned out I didn't, but I learned that he was Canadian. In the meantime, a journalist releases a takedown of Liz, and senators are no longer taking calls from Peterson Wyatt. So yeah, they have the good guy with a gun thing is, I mean, it's perfect for the plot. It's absolutely, it's just such an easy thing for the plot. It feels not lazy, but too predictable.
Yeah.
But that's because these things often are, and they are doing all the old arguments. They're not telling us anything new, this film, Yeah. We can't change the Constitution. I don't think you've noticed, but this thing is actually called the Second Amendment. So yes, we can. It's all the stuff we've heard and we know. So having a good guy with a gun turn up is not terribly surprising. But I hate that.
Is that this guy? So he's a legal carry, whatever. He's allowed to carry his gun because he's got a permit for it. But he's also the kind of guy, like they even say in the movie, he would not be affected by this bill because he's an upstanding citizen. He pays his taxes. He doesn't have a criminal record. He would pass a background check. Whereas the first guy that attacks her probably would not have. I think that is the point of all this, is that these are the difference between these two types of people that are able to get guns. Right? Not everybody's going to be like our hero. What if it was a Frank McGill and they have like magazine he becomes a hero for the other side, for the right, for the pro-gun movement, because here's what happened. You can show up and you can have a gun. You could save somebody if you have a gun. But it's like,
and unfortunately,
neither of them should have had a gun. Nobody should have, right? Let's just get rid of all the guns, and then nobody is in danger.
But unfortunately for them, for Liz, he is not one of the gun owners who is for background checks, right? Because plenty of gun owners are.
Yeah.
But he is unfortunately, or CKW get to him and pay him to be anti, the bill. So that is very unhelpful for Liz's campaign. And she goes to see Esme at an airport.
That's right.
Because Esme is flying home because she wants nothing to do with anyone anymore, because she genuinely was about to get murdered. And she says to Liz, "It crossed my mind that this was all you." Before the good guy with the gun turned up, if Esme had died, it would have crossed my mind that might have been Liz.
Like hiring the guy to threaten her with a gun?
Yeah, or even, because that is great for her campaign.
I guess that's the point, is like, how far would she go, right? And I guess she doesn't do that, but yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that she thought she would be behind it, because
Liz even says, "I don't know where the line is." Like, she's completely upfront and honest about it, but she's one of these upfront and honest people who I go, well, there's no point being honest if you're not going to fix that, because that's a problem. I don't want you to be honest about it. I want you to sort it out. The first step is recognizing you have a problem. The second step is actually doing something about it. And Liz is never gonna. When she has the meeting with the journalist, she goes with Dan, and there's a very nice moment because the journalist sits her down and is just like peppering her with the kind of questions that Liz doesn't want to answer, that she said she wasn't going to answer. And eventually Liz is like, "I'm leaving. This isn't the interview, like, basically, that we agreed to. I'm going." And they go, "Don't you think you owe us the truth and this, that, and the other?" And Dan pulls out the old, you're not interested in the truth. And the other guy goes, "How do you know?" And he goes, "Your dictaphone isn't even on." Like, so what you're going to be writing. This is all for show.
He gets so worked up there. It's like their lawyer and Dan is of course her lawyer. So that lawyer gets all worked up at the idea that you already have your article written. What? And like, I know so many journalists, like I've worked in journalism, and so many people I know have do that exact thing all the time. And they're just looking for specific quotes to slot into their pre-written article. And that's what they're doing. They just want to get they wanted to surprise her and try and shock a reaction from her but they still release the article. And there's a moment in this, I don't know if you noticed this. How are you about coffee cups in your your mistakes on screen and stuff? The way
is that to do with the fact that there's nothing in them?
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me for some reason. I know, like a friend of mine, it's the biggest pet peeve of hers, and for me, I'm just like, yeah, there's no coffee.
Well, she walks in. This is after when the article is released and they're all reading it around the table. She walks in with a coffee cup. There's she's like gesturing. Like, there's nothing in that cup. It is absolutely an empty cup. That does kind of bother me sometimes. If she just held it still, nobody would be able to tell. Right?
That's annoying. Yeah, if it's a coffee cup with a lid and someone's holding it and they're like, "It doesn't look heavy enough," I'm like, that's not a problem. But yeah, if it's meant to be like if you take a sip like this, there's obviously a lot of liquid in it, and then you're flinging it around and nothing goes out, that's a problem.
So that was one of my issues with this scene. But anyway, but she doesn't care. She doesn't care about the takedown piece in the article, although it basically cools off their campaign, right? Nobody wants to talk to her. They can't. Nobody's returning their calls. All the people that want to slay to vote for this bill, they're just ghosting her at this point. So that's what they want to do. That was the goal of all of this, was to shut down their campaign, and that's what they've done.
Good old-fashioned bribery.
Yes, CKW find a Senate rule breached, so go in search of a senator to bring the hearing. So they find John Lithgow. In the meantime, Liz is removed from the campaign by Schmidt to prepare with in-house counsel. She meets Dan. And then back at the hearing, we get into the nitty-gritty of Liz's testimony. So we have Jane, played by Allison Pill, of course, finds the document that is the reason they call the hearing, right? This is their proof that she broke a rule.
It's the travel document that she filled in that she shouldn't have filled in.
Right, because she's not allowed to. Lobbyists are not allowed to arrange for travel for from politicians, because of course they could like book them first class and do all these and bribe them in all these ways, right? That's the idea. So, and all she does is fill out a form. She doesn't even sign it. She just fills it out and sends it off, and then that's their gotcha. But as we learn later, that's not really, that's all part of the plan, I guess. And so DuPont meeting with Sperling. The hearing reveals the travel forms and proves Liz lied. She lies again about surveillance. I love the part where does she lie about surveillance, or does she say
yes? He asks her directly, have you ever surveilled anyone? And her entire team is sitting there who know that she has surveilled them.
But they
and she says
surveillance. She says I've never conducted illegal surveillance. And I looked up what that means. And what that means is that because they were talking about illegal surveillance back when they were showing her the cockroach and all this stuff. But what it really means is that you're surveilling people in a private setting, like not in public. So if you're in a public setting, so following people around is okay.
Okay.
Recording them or like bugging their house or anything like that. So I think what she does is not illegal surveillance in this film. I don't think anything is illegal.
Because they're in a car.
In a parkade, right?
Yeah, in a parking lot. I don't know whether that's not whether they close the doors of the car. Is that then your personal property, and therefore, I don't know how that works. But maybe you're right. Maybe she doesn't.
I think that's what she says, illegal surveillance, and I think that's her out. Now, my other question though is, what is Rob Ford's excuse? He, I think, lies on the stand. Yeah. Full on lies about their relationship, right? Like
he owes her fuck all. And I don't know why he lies for her.
I don't either, because it kind of already figured it out.
All I could think is that they'd had a conversation when he figures out who she is. And he's like, normal's boring and, blah, 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 blah. And she is very clear to him that she does not have a life outside her job. And the only thing I can think is that he feels so sorry for her that he thinks, if I don't lie, she's going to lose her job, and that's her entire life over. That's the only reason.
Maybe. I thought there might be, again, I think they're like trying to get around, because they made such a big deal about the perjury, right? And this is like, if you perjure to Congress, then you're, it's a federal offense and all this stuff. So I think he's telling the truth in some weird way. And I thought it was going to come out that he'd given her fee to charities, to an anti-gun organization. He, like, whatever she paid him for the sex, he donated that. So if he didn't actually pay him, something like, I thought that's what it was going to be, but they didn't come back to it at all. I think he lied. Basically, he lied about it. That didn't work. They're trying to like get her with that, and that didn't work. But the bill is pretty much dead because of all this, right? They've managed to distract from it, and they're not going to pass it or whatever, right?
Yeah, because even though he says that she did not sleep with a prostitute, that's not, he's in the room. It's enough that they got him in the room. And she's like, that's what she says to Dan. She goes, don't argue against this. It's a surprise witness, but leave it, because all they want to do is get him in the newspapers, and they've done it already. So let them have it.
Yeah, they had somebody who saw them together, saw him at the hotel at the same time as her.
Yeah, which is, I mean, wow, what a coinky dink. But yeah, so she knows, and then obviously that gets out, and then people don't want to talk to her anymore because she sleeps with prostitutes.
Like half of Washington, probably, right? Yeah. Anyway, okay, on to your final section here.
Well, first of all, can we just say that in the DuPont Sperling meeting in the car, Sperling is set up as this guy who hates lobbyists. And then DuPont says, we'll give you lots of money. And Sperling's like, well, how much money? And how are you going to do that? And DuPont says, we can obfuscate the funds. If I were Sperling and I were anti-lobbyist, I would already be recording this meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
And that would be it for me. I'd be like, it's the gotcha. Fuck you, all lobbyists. I have you by the balls. And I, as Sperling, would be going to people and going, this is why we've got to get rid of PACs and, super PACs and lobbyists, because it happened to me and they know how much I hate them. So I was like, why isn't he recording this? It was very odd. So yes, Liz appears at her sentencing hearing. This is the final part of the film, where she drops a revelatory bombshell.
I anticipated if we had sufficient success in lobbying for the Heaton-Harris bill, there may be an assault against me personally, to stall our momentum and to damage our credibility. Lobbying is about foresight, about anticipating your opponent's moves and devising countermeasures.
I'd like to discuss my future.
This is hardly the time, Cookie.
The winner plots one step ahead of the opposition and plays a trump card just after they play theirs.
Actually, it is the time.
It's about making sure you surprise them
The fuck is this?
and that they don't surprise you.
My resignation. Academia is more my scene.
And this is where it ties back to the beginning, because the first thing that happens is everyone takes their place in court. Esme turns up, very exciting, and she does that whole bluffing about whether or not she's gonna make a final speech. I hate that.
Yeah, because she obviously has something planned, right?
And then she makes a final speech. I hate that as well. So again, this is like A Few Good Men, where I was like really enjoying myself, and then it just went off the rails in the end.
Yeah.
And so I did see that one of the reviews was, it's a great film with a dumb ending. And I was like, yeah, kind of. And so we discover that this entire hearing has been planned by her. And the speech that she makes is the speech that we see her making to camera at the very beginning. The opening lines or the end of the film. Very smart. And then the other thing happens, which is Allison Pill is quite high up in the cast list for what I thought was a minor role. And I was like, I don't understand why she's got such a good, agents and who gets paid more money, and I don't even know. But when this happened, I was like, oh, she's very important, because it turns out that Jane has been on Liz's side the whole time, and she was her plant in the CKW offices. So when Jane refused to leave, Liz knew that was going to happen. That was the whole thing, was that Jane was going to stay. And she has been there as Liz's plant the whole time. So Liz filled in that travel document on purpose, knowing that it would come back here when she left to do that. So as soon as she had that gun control meeting, and as soon as she knew that they were going to go after her, she, in her job at CKW, did a thing that would get her into trouble.
Yeah.
She got on the stand, she let them rile her up so that she would have to answer other questions. The whole thing has been a usual suspects level of conning.
And she's also done some surveillance and recorded the conversation in the car between DuPont and Sperling. And then I love, she just says, go to this URL, and then she has a bunch of numbers. I'm like, why don't you just make it a nice, neat little, like, senatorcorruption.com or something like that? Some kind of she has 121. She starts saying the URL or whatever it is, and then it's basically, it looked like it was YouTube. The conversation between these two guys. So she blows it wide open and says, Sperling is the one who is corrupt. This whole system is corrupt, and basically the whole thing about this system is broken. It's that whole thing.
And
right?
Most importantly, Dan, how does she record DuPont and Sperling?
With the cockroach. They see the cockroach going into the car, and then those guys are recording, and so they use the cockroach to record, which I assume is illegal. I'm assuming that's legal surveillance.
Interesting. I had not thought of that. That's a very good point. And then, so she does get sentenced.
What was her crime? What was her actual crime here? What did she get convicted of doing? Is it the thing the form that she filled out?
Yeah.
Is that
generally shitty person? I don't know.
So she got like.
But yeah, she did do that. But like I say, apparently she can't be in that kind of trouble anyway in real life because she's not a senator. So she's not under their ethics rules. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really know. but she does still get put in prison.
Mhm.
And 10 months later, Dan goes to visit her in prison. And we learn that the bill passed. And I was like, it's great, but it's very silly.
After all that, like how so the bill 10 months later the bill passed. So like what, they got new senators in there or something like that. They had to start all over again after all this and start campaigning again and everything.
Yeah, and like now she's a great hero, and she's revealed that the lobbyists are doing, paying senators and stuff, and so and they can paint her as this, like, and this is the thing, like, yeah, she could get painted as whatever, but the right-wing press would have just as much to say about her. So I don't really know how they would sway all those senators again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea is that they flick a load of senators back. And he's like, very annoying thing happens. Dan says to her, you did all this and you knew you were going to get sent to prison. Like, you got sent to prison on purpose, essentially, to get the bill passed. Was it worth it? And she's like, I'm in a women's prison. We don't shank each other. We form self-help groups. And I was like, Jesus Christ. What? Like, she's probably she might be in a minimum security, and I don't know. But the conversation that Molly has with Charles, the other one, and he's like, you don't know what it's like in a women's prison. You get raped, and they're under the thumb of the guys in the the police officers. Like, it's not fun in there. And she makes it sound like a spa. I'm like, maybe she's just trying to like some levity or whatever. She's trying to make herself feel better. And also he says, that she committed career suicide, and she says, career suicide is not so bad when you consider the alternative is suicide by career. So, yeah, she had no life. She had nothing going on. That job was going to kill her.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And the very last thing we see, so it ends, and then the first sort of credits start coming up, and we see her being released from prison. And that's the end. She's just standing outside the prison, like, where do I go now? What do I do? Like, nobody's coming to collect her. She's on her own.
She does not have any friends. Yeah, it was okay. Like it was very, very much getting on her soapbox at the end of it. Like you said, it's very cheesy, but I still like that, the people who got what they were got what, she was on the right side of it at the end. Sorry.
Yeah. And also she did bad stuff and she went to prison. Like, so, and also there's no like big making up between her and Esme as well, which I was pleased about. Esme just walks away.
And after, like, she offers her a job still, and after all that, she's like, no, I'm not gonna for you. What are you talking about? And she even offers to leave. She's like, well, you can come back and I'll leave. And I'm like, no, that's not a real offer.
Yeah. So it's nice because that happens at the airport, I think. Yeah. So it's nice that I don't think they talk when Esme turns up in the courtroom. So I did like that they didn't like give her any form of happy ending there. I did enjoy the Jane reveal. The other thing I enjoyed about the Jane reveal is that she hands, as this information is coming out, she leans over to Pat, who's sitting in front of her, and goes, I need to talk about my job. And he goes, now is not the time. She's like, yeah, I want to quit. And she hands him her resignation letter, and he opens up the envelope, and what it is the piece of paper that Schmidt wrote down his offer to Liz on when they first met. And Liz's offer to go to Peterson Wyatt was nothing. They were going to give her no dollars to go and work for them. But she guaranteed that her team got paid. So whatever she got out of this monetarily, whether she did negotiate a deal or whatever she was doing, he offered her nothing. And when she took her team, she said, you will not lose money coming with me to do this job. So good for her on those grounds.
Absolutely. One thing I've noticed, like watching this movie, she talks a lot about how the system is broken. And several times during this film, I watched this and thought, this isn't how the system works anymore. This isn't even close to how it works anymore. Like now, if the system was broken now, it's a complete mess. Or then it was complete mess now. Because these days, like I can't even imagine it seems that they all vote just along party lines, and it's all basically Republicans versus Democrat, and that's it. And nobody crosses over. Nobody. It just seems like that there's that line in the sand for the American politics, and that's never gonna be this way again, right?
Yeah.
But it's just kind of this throwback. Another film that does this really well is called The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy. The movie is he gets elected. He has the same name as a congressman who dies. So he just runs because he has the same name, and he wins the election and becomes a congressman. So it's him going to Congress and learning about how corrupt Congress is. And it does kind of talk a little bit about the lobbyists and stuff. So that's a really good one.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Just running because you got the same name, and therefore people won't even think they'll just take it.
Yeah, and that's what people do, right? People will just vote for the same guy every time.
Yeah.
So.
And I've just started watching the newsroom, and we've just had the 2010 midterms in it, and that seems to be like the ground floor of like where it started to be like completely split, like the Republicans will vote Republican and the Democrats will vote Democrat, and I was like, oh my god, this is like the ground floor. Like I'm coming in at the it was really interesting. Time period, the entire show, every episode, I'm texting my friend Ollie and going, oh, this episode could be now. Oh, this episode could be now, only it's worse now. Oh, this episode could be now, only it's worse now. Oh, so awful.
Okay, what would you give this movie out of 5 on Letterboxd?
I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Because
again, it could have been a 4 just because the pace and the cast is great, and like it's just firing along on all barrels, and it's really it's very, very funny to use a gun analogy, but it really does drive along, and I really do enjoy that, but it does lose it at the end for me.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for recommending that. Now, for next week, I'm going to do the same thing. Is we're going to continue jumping off of actors to other films.
Good.
Right. I was debating this one, and I did want to go down the Mark Strong route. However, I thought of a different route, going through Allison Pill, because she's in a film that I really love, and I would like you to see it. If you have seen this already, that's okay, because I'd like to watch it again with you. This is a film that is about Canada's national pastime, hockey. So at the risk of us starting a month of sports movies, because I know the Olympics are coming up too, so we might end up watching some sports movies. That's okay, whatever. It's sports. This is a film. I'm gonna just tell you. It's called Goon.
No, I've never seen that, and I think I was just hearing someone talk about how great it was. So I'm very interested to see that.
Well, I will tell you a couple of things. First of all, this was shot here where I live in Winnipeg. So you will see a lot of my hometown in this film, and I can point out some stuff when we talk about it. It also, Allison Pill is the kind of the romantic love interest of Stifler here, of Sean Michael Scott. Sean William Scott. What's his name? Sean William Scott. And then
I do like Sean William Scott.
Good. Leah Schreiber as the other goon. That's Leah Schreiber. Yeah. Right? He's kind of unrecognizable in this one, but it's a lot of fun. And I don't know, do you know anything about hockey?
I've just watched Heated Rivalry.
Okay, well, it's not that kind of hockey, but it's still, well, maybe. I don't know. Actually,
Is it ice hockey?
It is ice hockey, yes, of course.
Yeah, because I'm from the UK, so I know about hockey, but it's like we play it on grass with a stick. That's that kind of hockey.
Oh.
Field hockey. Maybe, I don't even know if it's called that, but the kind of hockey they have in the Summer Olympics.
Okay.
Not the kind of hockey they have at the Winter Olympics.
This also stars Jay Baruchel.
Wow, I love him.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I like to watch. What do you think?
I think that's an excellent idea. I'm really glad that you jumped off again from this one, because I am enjoying that as a way of finding new films to watch.
We have to keep doing that, but this at least gets us in the sports category. And then if we want to do Olympic themed stuff later on, we're already in sports. So there you go.
Also, we have just accidentally done a sort of court case trifecta. So, accidental trilogy.
Oh, we did fire movies, then we did
we did 3 fire movies. Then we did 2 Christmas movies.
That's true.
We've done 3 court movies, so we can move on to sport now.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us for another transatlantic watch party. Until next time, keep watching movies.